straight from the realm of all things gaming. Everything Noob starts now.
It's the 108th episode, there we go, of the Everything Noob podcast. I am Vortak, maker of the videos on the YouTubes with the games and the stuff, and we have a special guest this evening joining us.
I'm the intern, doing the intern things for Jimmy while she's away.
You are also known as Brendan, right? That's,
yes.
If that is your real name?
That is my real name.
I'm going to forget to call you intern, so I thought I'd bring it up.
Oh, that's okay.
But yes, this is Amy's boyfriend, who she refers to as the intern, and
I am the intern.
now you get to be on the show in her place.
He says that.
He
says that
yeah.
depressingly. Yeah, I'm an intern. I am.
Just because she's gone.
And
Just
then
have cats.
and then Dreadlow, of course.
How's it going? Now I'm gonna be probably doing more streaming, so you'll be hearing a lot more about that.
Awesome.
And I've been doing some YouTube videos, but I've been focusing more on streaming, I think.
Well, good,
We'll see what happens. Yeah,
It's good stuff. So
it's gonna be fun.
tonight we pick a theme for every show, and tonight's theme is emulators and game remakes. Kicking it off with a story that popped up from Nintendo this week about how they've thrown down a patent for some Game Boy emulators, and speculation is these emulators are going to open the door for Game Boy games on your phone, or perhaps just other new Nintendo titles on your cell phone. And I just thought this was pretty intriguing. We haven't really talked about emulators and things like that on the podcast in a while, so thought I'd bring that up and see what you guys thought of all that.
Oh God, I gotta hide my phone now from Nintendo, or they'll take it away. Because I already have Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Color emulator for my phone. You know, so I can play the Rubes, Pokemon Rubes, on it.
Is that the street name for it?
I don't know, maybe I'm gonna make it the street name. Play the Rubes, man, the Rubes, dealing it under the table.
So the problem I've always had with those emulators is that, and of course there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and legal crap and whatever, but the internet's just a horrible place full of people breaking laws all the time. So we're not going to get into that portion of it, but
I think that's the definition of the internet.
you're not wrong. The problem I always had with those is no one ever bothered to make a good one that was multiplayer friendly, from my experience.
Yeah, remember we tried to experiment there a little bit with the Nintendo DS emulator.
Yeah.
So that we could see if we can somehow get something going there, but yeah, there's really no way. They had an option there for it, but it wasn't implemented yet. It was something they were working on, or it was a process which never got developed, and the emulator's probably a few years old, so I don't think they will.
Yeah, there's emulators that stay up to date too, and they're not even like bad things to have on your computer in terms of legal stuff, because some of them are used to play like legitimate games. People just use them as like launchers or what have you.
Right. I mean, there's some people have cartridges, and I can dig out in a cupboard right now of tons of cartridges from the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of cartridges that I can't use. I don't have the system. The thing was broken years ago, and I just got the little cartridges.
You could get a device to like rip those to your computer.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got my emulator, and I can play them on my computer. So
yeah.
And supposedly it's not illegal to do that. It's completely legal as long as you own it. They would rather you rip it from your own cartridge, but there are downloads for it. So
Yeah.
Well, it's probably mostly the issue with the technology, because like the old Nintendo or the old Game Boys and the DSs, they worked on the infrared signals and everything like that, whereas your phones and everything would be working on a completely different type of signal, a wireless signal, which trying to get the software to work right with that, would probably be where the real issue lies. So I don't know if you could ever really come up with a great, emulator that could do that sort of thing, to replicate it properly.
Probably not, which is why I'm glad Nintendo could sanction one, and they would do it right, I hope, and make it so you can do multiplayer games with your friends using your phone, just the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
I mean,
awesome.
because they already do that with the Street Pass. You just hook up, your Spot Pass and your Street Pass to your phone, or to whatever has your emulator going, and Nintendo's already got it. I mean, I could go to McDonald's right now and get 10 Street Passes.
Is McDonald's the only one of the only places like Best Buy, McDonald's, and a couple others that do that? Because I've been past GameStop like dozens of times, and there's one location you could just walk past it. If you have your 3DS in your pocket, you're going to get 10 Street Passes every time. Well, there's one we've walked past it twice in a row now in the past couple nights, and right next to this GameStop, thinking, oh, we're going to get a bunch of Street Passes, and nothing. No Spot Pass, no Street Pass. I thought GameStop was one of the stores that did it.
They've been
Not
blocked
that
by
I know
Nintendo.
of, which is really odd, because you expect at least the employees, one of them to have a DS of some sort, to Street Pass or Spot Pass with you. But no, I mean, I know McDonald's is the really big one there, and a couple other places, but
I didn't know McDonald's was one until I started Googling it tonight. And now I'm like, well, I don't want to eat at McDonald's, but maybe I'll just go through the drive-thru and not order anything. Like, once a week, I'll just be that guy. Just drive around. Like, I hate Street Pass guy.
you get a Coke or something. You spend $1, get Street Passes, and then a nice refreshing Coke.
Just ask for a water. I go through there and say, yeah, I need a straw.
Yeah. I just ordered, and I didn't get any straws. We haven't had an order in an hour, sir.
And then they'll say, oh, please just wait out there, and we'll bring it out to you.
Damn it. Thwarted by you wily McDonald's employees.
I was just kind of shocked, because the last few times it was by the other GameStop, we got a ton of them, and I'd be surprised if they didn't have some kind of Spot Pass hub. And this one doesn't seem to have one.
Yeah, there'd be like Nintendo kiosks all over the town.
I thought Walmart had one too. Walmart had something, and they don't either.
I was really surprised that Walmart didn't have anything. Maybe a Toys R Us or something. Maybe another game. I mean, I don't know who you would choose if not Walmart or, Toys R Us or GameStop. I mean, where else you going to buy a 3DS or 2DS?
Yeah.
Kmart?
Kmart. There's no
what's
Kmart.
interesting? I don't know if this is the same technology or not, but whenever I drive into a Smith's parking lot, my phone pops up the Smith's discount card or whatever on my phone. And so I just pulled in the parking lot. It's there, and I'm going, oh, cool. And then I can just scan it onto the thing for getting my discount or whatever. It's kind of the same technology, I would imagine, kind of like a Street Pass. As soon as I come up to the parking lot, boom, it's noticed me.
I'm really hoping Nintendo opens up the phones more with this emulator thing, because another thing I'd love to see is the ability to Street Pass, but with your phone, and not with a 3DS in your pocket, because that thing is huge.
Oh, yeah.
That's what she said.
But yeah, it's weird. It just pops up with the current discounts and everything for me. So I'm going, oh, this is cool. Yeah. And then I click on it, and I can add it to my card. And then when I go and get the product, I go up to the register. They check it out. I scan my little thing, right, off my phone, and it gives me the discount. It's really, really cool.
Well, not just that, but some of the other apps that the 3DS incorporates. You get coins every time you walk, or in Pokemon you get, if you walk 4,000, steps in a day, you get 4 times regeneration for your S powers and everything. And, you have to walk around with the 3DS or the 2DS in your pocket. It's like, well, what if I work out and I've got an iPod that I, just strap on my arm and I go running?
Yeah.
Or something like that. It'd be something, where you could incorporate your technology, and get people using it, but instead of just, well, I guess I'm not going to get my coins or do my exercises today,
I get it too. They want kids to go be active. They don't want them to sit around all day, and it's a really good system to have on your console, but the console's too bulky. Kids don't I don't have pockets big enough in my jeans to carry around a giant bulky 3DS, and I'm sure no child does either. It'd be better if you had the wristwatch thing. Maybe like a Samsung thing, only Nintendo makes one. And it's just a pedometer that you put on your wrist and you go running. and there it is. You get a bunch of steps. I mean,
And you could even street pass with it.
yeah. I mean, Nintendo could easily do that, and then
The
they sell
Nintendo
more
Watch.
hardware. We should work for Nintendo. Every time we talk about Nintendo on the show, we come up with like all these $1 million ideas for them. The sinking
There's
ship.
so much
Mario
that
watch,
they can
and then you can
do.
do the Zelda watch, and then the Pikachu watch, or the Charmander watch. I mean, that's 300,000 watches I just sold. Pikachu
gosh.
watch. I mean, you just sold it to the entire island of Japan. The islands of Japan.
Yeah. No, kids would go nuts for that, and then parents would be like, "Yeah, I'll get you that. You can make it cheap, $25-$50. Throw it on the wrist and make them go play outside for an hour, and it's a win-win."
Yeah, I mean,
They're like, "That's
On the freeway with a Super Bowl.
yeah." We'll solve overpopulation.
Wait. I think there's a street pass. Come on. You can dodge a car. You can dodge a ball, right? We're preparing them for dodgeball, for the Ocho, and for Pokemon.
The Ocho.
Yeah.
Movie references you may not get.
Oh, it's funny.
Who doesn't get dodgeball?
I don't know, man.
reference?
Some people have
They shouldn't be in our audience if they don't.
You're right. Get out of here. Go watch dodgeball.
Go watch dodgeball, then come back and listen.
Yeah, I just why an emulator? Why wouldn't it just be called an app? You know what I mean? Why would Nintendo need to make? Because when I hear the word emulator, I don't. I'm sure that's what Nintendo would really be using, but they should be. I'm hoping they call it something else, like the Game Boy app, the official Game Boy app.
Well, is it something that you can possibly put on your computer as well? Or is this strictly just
Just
device?
for now, it's I don't know. They just patented. I have the there's
Oh,
a
that's
ton
just
of different,
a patent. It's just a patent right now.
Yeah,
They haven't actually done anything with it. Ah, gotcha.
there's a ton of different articles, and the speculation is everywhere. But the fact of the matter is, they filed a Game Boy emulator patent.
Well, because if it was an app, then they would have to reprogram and remake the games that they have already to use in this app to be like an Android OS thing. Whereas if it's an emulator, then you can bring in existing ROMs or whatever into the emulator, and it will emulate 3DS or whatever. On
Well,
your
I mean,
phone.
you can have an emulator that is an app. So, I mean, that really wouldn't be that big of an issue.
That's
I mean,
true.
'cause
You got
the
one
emulator
yourself.
that I have. Yeah, I mean, it's a really
Yeah.
nice, one that fits on my phone here, and I just run whatever, run my Pokemons is essentially what I run it for. But I mean, it works really. I mean, it runs as an app, so it's not like it's a separate programming that you would need for the games. So yeah, I mean, why they wouldn't, or maybe they're, they patent the emulator so they can put it into an app, or
Yeah.
so it's incorporated into a Nintendo app, and you have the emulator portion, and then you have the your pedometer portion, and
Play your
various
old
things like
favorites.
that.
It goes into like, I don't know, if they just take ROMs and throw it on there, okay, great. But I would like to see them make their own quote unquote ROMs and take some of these old games and remake them. And like I said earlier, we should be able to play multiplayer Pokemon on our phones if that's what we're going for. That would be awesome. I mean, everyone would be doing that.
That would be awesome. Yeah. I mean,
That would be awesome. At the same time, I could see why they wouldn't want to do that. Because,
Sells less
you
hardware.
want to play, exactly. You want to play Pokemon with your friends, side by side? Okay, well, you got to buy the 3DS or
Yeah.
the 2DS. Or
Well, you got to limit it to old games. You have to limit it to games that are not going to be remade anytime soon. Just like Pokemon Red and Blue. Limit it to that. Like, make them color, make them multiplayer, whatever. Update them a little bit. And make sure you don't go too new with it, because then if people want to, it's a gateway to get people addicted. You pay maybe $5 for the old Pokemon game, and it's multiplayer. You're like, this is awesome. This is like my childhood all over again. Now I don't need to buy this 3DS. And then you throw in some ads somewhere, like, oh, check out the new Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. You're like, I don't want to play the new ones, and maybe it shows a screenshot or two, and you're like, oh, it's 3D now. That's weird. So people who aren't really on the bandwagon at the moment could see that, and then they're thinking, maybe I should get one of these 3DSs. You just have to make sure you're getting money for something you already got your money for, and then it's worth it.
Right.
Because you have all the software, you have everything, and you already profited from Pokemon Red and Blue forever ago. Then you profited again from Fire Red and Leaf Green, which just remakes. I mean, take those, throw them on the phone, and you just get your profits all over again, but for a whole new audience who didn't even think to go out and buy a Nintendo because they're over it. But it's on their phones. It costs a few bucks. And
Right.
this,
At that point, though, the emulator would have to have, I guess, some sort of coding in it that would prohibit like outside ROMs. So like, because I've downloaded, a ROM for Pokemon. I don't remember. I think it was Crystal, actually, not the Rubes. It was for Pokemon Crystal. But it would it would have to be something where it prevents me from using that ROM. It would have to be a one where it's Nintendo's ROM. There's some bit of coding in the ROM that talks to some bit of coding in the emulator.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you can play this ROM. You can't play this outside ROM that is missing this coding, or
then they
isn't
can
part of your
enable a
purchase.
multiplayer for it, for that
Ah.
ROM. Because if you decide you want to try and get an emulator that will emulate the same game, but not through a Nintendo emulator, it basically blocks that multiplayer aspect of it. But if you have a legitimate emulator that's got a legitimate ROM, then they should be able to enable a multiplayer function to it.
It's all about communication and like what the devices use to talk to each other. And if you use something basic like Bluetooth that all phones have, you're going to be fine. You just have to code it into the game, which is going to require some work, and that'll justify charging a price for a game that you already earned money off of years ago. Mm-hmm. And I just think that'd be really awesome. But I mean, I'm limited to Pokemon in my mind because that's all I played on Game Boy. That was it. That was my Game Boy experience. But there's so many other titles that were single player that were probably fantastic. I mean, there are not Pokemon. There are Mario Kart games for Game Boy that you could put on there, and Game Boy had a pretty extensive library all the way up into Game Boy Advanced and stuff. So you could definitely.
But
make an
is
awesome
is this
even with
is
it
this
just single
emulator?
player.
Is this Nintendo emulator? Is it specifically like a type? Like, in other words, is it for DS or is it
just
for
said
Game Boy?
Like it was very specific
Game Boy
in saying
emulator.
Nintendo patents Game Boy emulator.
Yeah, I don't think that they would ever, maybe 10 years down the road, but I don't think they'd ever make an emulator for a Nintendo DS because the DS itself is portable, and to them that's portable enough, So I don't think they would ever.
No one's asking them to either. Just I think a lot of people go out of their way to try to play Super Mario on a device that wouldn't normally play it because they don't bring their Game Boy to school. I remember the graphing calculators. You can get those games on graphing calculators, and I mean, just use the pixels in the calculator and it looked good.
Yeah, there's actually someone who did Smash Brothers on the graphing calculator.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, but the issue then is with the really old school Game Boy games, you didn't have a ton that were really too interactive with their multiplayer aspects. Because the original Game Boy, you had to have the cord that you connected to each Game Boy, and then I think with Game Boy Color it went to the infrared stuff. But I mean, even then, I mean, Pokemon was the game. I mean, it's not like, I mean, I don't know, Tetris never did that I can think of, or Mario's, or the Final Fantasies.
yeah.
Because those were the games that I played. When I bought the Game Boy because of Pokemon, but then I bought Final Fantasy for it. But none of those games really had that multiplayer aspect. So maybe it would be bringing in other things, like doing an NES emulator to it next, or a Super Nintendo emulator.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, which a phone. I mean, which is odd because a phone can easily run that. They could probably run a GameCube emulator. In all honesty, I mean,
Grand Theft Auto up to San Andreas has been ported to the phone.
Yeah,
You can fully play San Andreas on your Android or iPhone.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the remakes of Final Fantasy 3, the ones that they had for what DS that you can get, So it's interesting, who has the rights to the things because, so Nintendo did the remake, but it's also still Square's thing.
Yeah.
So that may be where, the DS would be the issue, whereas with the old Nintendo, it is Nintendo almost exclusively who owns the rights to everything.
No matter what they do, it's a good move because there are plenty of people like yourself who already have an emulator on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure you'd prefer to have an official one that works right. It's guaranteed to work. It's Nintendo's product, and it's safe to use. It's legal. There's no question about it. There's no spam on your phone from weird publishers or anything like that. And that'd be great. That's why piracy is such a problem because the product just isn't available, so people pirate it. It's not all bad people.
No.
It's just people who I want to see this show, but my parents won't get me HBO. So I have to do what I have to do. And you gotta give people
at that
options.
point. Well, at that point, you say to the kid, you wait for it to come out on DVD and then buy it from Amazon or whatever.
You be a parent. But,
I mean, but
but you're seeing what I'm saying.
that's a moral policing sort of thing, or a self-moral policing.
If it's
sort of thing.
available and accessible, there's going to be less pirating. And that's what Nintendo should be going for. They should be going for, let's make this accessible. People are doing it anyway. Let's make our own. And let's give them an incentive. If they did a multiplayer one, that would do it for everyone. Everyone would be like, oh my God, I've been playing Pokemon on my phone forever.
And then,
I can
and then
play
people
multiplayer
can buy,
now.
and they can buy the games straight from the emulator.
Yeah. Just like the
they can
eShop. They can
purchase-
just download it to their phone.
It'd be
And I
amazing.
would totally do that because how many people would get it so they could just trade? So you could get your Alakazam. Damn it, I need Alakazam, but you can't get them in an emulator. Because you can't trade with anybody. So, Nintendo, we got your money. Alakazams, sell me Alakazam, and I will be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really making
Yeah,
Which
I
is
mean,
what it is.
There's no sense on us carrying 6-7 devices with us. We already got 6-7 devices in our house. Xbox One, PS4, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't need 100 devices that we carry around with us. We just have our phone. If we just have an emulator that can emulate some of these things, we can have one device to,
one to
rule them all.
If you don't get that reference, stop listening and go watch Lord of the Rings. Then come back and finish listening.
It's true, but again, we come to that hardware issue. But as long as you limit it to what we were saying before, if my phone just did street passing and nothing else, and counted my steps maybe with the pedometer, and nothing else, those points would go towards nothing unless I had the console.
Right.
Yeah.
You're only promoting sales at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So-
you can walk with the pedometer, but why use Nintendo's versus anybody else's? But if you have the Nintendo one, you're getting something out of it, and you can put a little ad, when you launch it or something like that.
Nintendo puts ads on everything. When you were here, I'm sure you saw my Wii U would turn on. The little screen would turn on and say, now available in the eShop. And you're just sitting there eating dinner and you just hear this noise and you look over and there it is all lit up telling you about the newest sale. They have no shame. So
No shame in their game.
It's that thing that you were a little worried that Xbox and Sony were going to do. Nintendo's like, yeah, we'll do it.
We'll do it. Whatever.
No problem.
I'm not angry about it.
No, here is the Mario couch cover, fit exactly to your dimensions. We measured it. We eyeballed that sucker.
Creeps. I think it's awesome, because I forgot the new Mario Kart DLC was out, and then an ad popped up, and I remembered, oh yeah, I got that DLC, so I went and played it. It's fine. Ads aren't all bad, and you can, even if you buy a Nintendo app and it said, hey, check out the new Pokemon game out now, you're like, oh, I can't do that. I only have this stupid emulator. But I don't know. It's
Maybe
good.
that would get you to buy a 2DS, 3DS, whatever.
Yeah. But the bone I have to pick with the Nintendo, and the reason for the hybrid topic tonight about remakes is, I went and looked up the Pokemon trading card game, 3DS eShop. I got some extra. They were running a promotion. I got, like, you were here for when I was fiddling with that. I got like $10 for the eShop from this Nintendo promotion. I'm like, oh, awesome. I wonder what I could buy. So today I looked, and I used to have the Pokemon trading card game. It was a Game Boy game, and it played just like all the other Pokemon games except with trading cards. You battle little gym leaders, and you collect cards, and you make decks. And the coolest part was, just like the real Pokemon trading card game, you could link up with your friends and trade the cards and battle them. Mm-hmm. So you could find rare cards in the game and trade your friends. Okay, great. Well, the 3DS version doesn't offer that, it seems. It just says single player under the, option, like the listing for the game. It doesn't mention any linking capabilities or anything. And I don't want to buy it to find out that it doesn't have that. Maybe they just... Because the game itself says single-player multiplayer, meaning it has multiplayer functions, but it's single-player. But that's the old game. The 3DS one just has single-player. So I have to assume they don't offer a multiplayer, which kind of sucks. Because now I'm not going to get that game. But for me, that's kind of the appeal. Like, I want to battle my friends. I don't really care about your AI. Which, in that game, kind of sucked. It was either super challenging or super easy, if I remember. But it was just disappointing.
Yeah, I could see them, not porting it over for the same reason, why a phone emulator wouldn't work. It's a different sort of technology, and they don't want to have to sit there and write the code for it. So you could, battle your friend online or do the cool things you can do in the, newest, Pokemon games. Just do a world pass and, just trade cards randomly to other people. But,
they really phoned it in. It was just there, It's like, oh, here's this game, and you look at like the pictures of it. The bottom screen is just basically black or has a logo on it, and the top screen is just stretched out and pixelated and has the black bars and the edges. And they literally ported the Game Boy version over and probably didn't do a damn thing to it to make any kind of improvement, which is a shame because you're charging me $5 for it.
Yeah, well,
and I'm missing capabilities here. So if that's what Nintendo's planning on doing, I'm not on board. Kind of, it just sucked. I would like to see a new Pokemon trading card game, and maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they wanted to test sales. Like, do people even like this game? Let's try to sell it again and see what happens. And maybe depending on how it does, they'll put a new one in the works. Mm-hmm. Because Pokemon's a massive moneymaker for them still today.
I mean, we just hear about Nintendo constantly hurting themselves by holding back on stuff, that they could be doing. Like, for instance, we talked about how Nintendo, now they're starting to, but they wouldn't allow us to do YouTube videos of their games, and they just keep hurting themselves in the foot. And here's another example. But with this emulator, this might be their way of, they're going to kind of open the door a little bit. Hopefully that'll work for them.
Maybe, but maybe they go the route of the Pokemon trading card game with the emulator, and they just take out the multiplayer aspect. So it's just single player for Pokemon, just single player for, Pokemon trading card game, on this emulator. Just single player for all the games on the emulator.
Yeah.
And that would be disappointing for some of those old games, though. I mean, for the most part, save Pokemon, I didn't really use the multiplayer aspect for those. But, I mean,
I like having the option.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. In certain games, you really need it. Pokemon, you need multiplayer. Otherwise, you can't get 151. You're stuck.
Yeah. Well, that and just... it gives it more of a purpose. That's why like MMOs do so well, because you build this character up and it has a purpose. Like you can pit it against someone else online. You could show off the things you got in the game. With a single player game, any single player game, you lose that. So it needs to be a story driven game that has a beginning, middle, and end, or something multiplayer with capability. Like Pokemon's a single player game at its heart, at its core, but you collect all your Pokemon, and you do the story, and then you go battle online with all the ones you collected. And I love
Absolutely.
that.
I mean, Jimmy's Hypno, scared the shit out of her friends. I mean, and she would be so disappointed if she couldn't terrorize people with her hypno. She'd just walk around and terrorize the Elite Four over and over, and just be
I think it's probably one of the
same
reasons
as beating intern.
That's probably one of the reasons why we're probably never going to see a PS3 or an Xbox 360 emulator, because of the fact that it relies so much on internet connectivity. Not just with that. There's a lot of other things too that we discussed, but
yeah, but I mean, with like, even if you emulate it to tablets or phones, all of that's connected to there's Wi-Fi everywhere. I've probably got 16 different Wi-Fi signals going through my body right now. I mean, that's probably why I'm listening to the Backstreet Boys and Maroon 5 and the Golden Oldies in my cavities all at once. I mean, that and fluoride in the water. But
I like you said the Backstreet Boys. You talk about the back mouth.
Yeah, the molars.
Backstreet Boys.
No, but I mean, Wi-Fi is everywhere. I mean, the internet connectivity really isn't that big of an issue in terms of an emulator for it. I mean, it would just be the capability. I don't know if the technology.
Well, I mean, because a lot of games now, like the multiplayer games, are like Call of Duty and things like that. Mm-hmm. It would be. I think it would be harder to connect to their network with an emulator than it would be to connect with their actual console. So, and then there was other things that this one guy we had a post on, where he explains that the CPUs and stuff that are involved with the PS3 are so different than, and their graphics is so different than a PC's, that it's hard to develop like drivers and things like that will actually emulate this. So that's why it would be kind of difficult.
I don't know about that aspect, because I mean, it's not like, when they're making the game, they're like, okay, we're just putting the code in on the PlayStation 3, and that's where we're doing it from. They start out on a computer. I mean, and that's where they're writing the code. That's where they like test everything, because
that's true. You're right.
That's why computers are the best gaming device.
You're right. This
will always be the best. I mean, that's just a dedicated computer is essentially what a console is, dedicated to this one sole purpose.
I always said consoles had the upper hand in the fact that they're probably not going to get any viruses or anything, because you can only use them to play games. And nowadays that could be wrong because of browsers on them and stuff like that. But for the most part, you can always rely on that console to turn on and play your game, and not have to like turn it on and discover, oh crap, my stupid disk driver burnt out on my stupid computer today, or some other weird part you put in that went out, or who knows, like anything can go wrong with the PC, especially
software that you installed conflicted with it or something.
2 words. Red ring.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I had that.
I had that like at the end of my last Xbox, like right as I was like, getting to buy a new one. I got red ring, so it's just a new one.
Somebody joked. I don't know if this is true. I was going to say somebody joked about the blue screen on an Xbox One, that they got a blue screen to death instead of so that got rid of the ring, so now they got the blue screen.
Yeah. Now, yeah, we could be getting to that point where they're taking they just build a super PC and put a case on it, and it's not as dedicated anymore, because we do now with these consoles, they want to tailor to everyone. They want the console to do everything. So maybe they're becoming a little less reliable in that sense, because they have too many components and software. They seem to be working, but now if we're getting blue screened on consoles,
I know. I don't know if it's true. It's just they showed a picture of it.
Welcome, console gamers. Welcome
it was a
to
meme.
Our problems.
Blue screen meme for Xbox
You are going to be seeing that more, with updates and game developers aren't polishing things as much, because of the ability to update. But then you get, the lizards who can take down an entire network, what they did at 2 networks, took down the PlayStation network, some months ago.
Are you talking about the DDoSers?
Yeah. Who DDoSed, the PlayStation network, and essentially shut that down, and then they did another one that same day. I can't remember what network. It wasn't Xbox. It was something else. But I mean, that can happen. Those capabilities are coming in. As we're getting more and more connected, and as we're things are doing more and more. Used to be you just blew in a cartridge, shoved it in harder, slammed it down, rubbed it 3 times clockwise, and pushed the power button, and you're good to go.
Or blowing it like everybody else does. They just, okay, this is going to work this time.
Yeah, people always warn me not to do that because you could end up spitting in the cartridge.
Yeah.
And then you're really screwed. Then have to be
no, that's why you blow on it through a shirt.
I didn't even think to do that.
Yeah. And it can catch the dust, some of it too, yeah.
That's not a bad idea at all.
Exactly. Those cartridges is
The resilient little bastards.
Exactly.
Those still work today. I mean, I have Man 64. I turned it on recently, and all my old games on my old N64, I got it shortly after it came out. Still have the same console, same cartridges. Everything works. I mean, it's good stuff. It's nice to see that still, and the big problem with that is you plug in your old console to your new TV, and everything gets stretched out and destroyed. Games just look awful. Games that once looked fantastic look awful, and you have to play on an old TV. And I would really like to see emulators become something they're more standard rather than this taboo thing. Like, you can't talk about emulators. They're, unless you own the game. And not only that, but in some cases, I've heard that not only do you need to own the game, you need to be the one who ripped it. You can't just download it just because you own the game. And that's
that's
proves that.
iffy there for that.
There's all these weird laws with them, and I would just like to see some actual sanctioned ones. But we're never going to see that because Nintendo would rather have their eShop be available to, like, okay, we've remastered this game, and here's the re-release. Buy it now. Like, I already own this game. Come on.
But here's the deal, though. I mean, you go all the way back to just Nintendo. And then you got Super Nintendo, and then you got Nintendo 64, and then and it goes all the way up. These consoles are obsolete. I don't even think Nintendo makes them anymore, right?
Of course not.
So, what is going to happen in the future or even near now, when we want to play these games and we don't have those consoles, they're broken or whatever, but we have all these cartridges? It's not, it would make sense for a company like Nintendo to make an emulator that would emulate all these old consoles that they don't. It's cheaper for them to make an emulation program to be able to handle the ROMs that they can sell off of the emulator into the emulator, and then that way they're going to make money off the games again, and for us, or for those that know how to do it, can get their games on there.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have a way where you can recognize it. Maybe they come up with a little thing where you plug the cartridge in and plug it in your computer.
Scan the barcode with your phone.
Or whatever. Yeah. I mean, look at all this technology we have today. There's no reason why we can't do it.
Well, you can find, like, it's third-party consoles. Like, other companies will buy the rights to produce like old versions of the console. So, like, I was at Hastings, which is a couple blocks from where I live, last week, 2 weeks ago, and I was like, Super Nintendo, plug in your cartridge and play. Wow, okay. I mean, I don't have any. I mean, because I was a Sega guy, damn it. Sonic, that's where it's at.
Yeah. I've seen Sega and Nintendo mix, like, consoles, too.
Yeah,
and then they have those.
It's companies that do have the rights to do that, so
But
then they have these consoles. Yeah, they have these consoles that have 1,000 games in them from the past. Old games, and it's just this little console. Come on, we got that. We can hook it to our TV or whatever. We want something for our phones. Come on, some of those games are so cool and so playable on something like this. I mean, could you imagine, playing like, Super Mario Brothers or something on your phone? That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
I like the idea of, like, the new consoles being, or, tailored to old cartridges. They just need to have ways, and I'm sure it's possible, but probably not the most efficient way. But I'm pretty sure they make consoles specifically for up-converting your old cartridges on your new TV, so it doesn't look as grainy. It just tries to take some of the alias crap out of it.
Oh yeah.
And
See, that's the whole thing about an emulator. It can be software, since it's software driven. It could fix those issues.
Generally, emulators on my screen look pretty good, and they get I can make the screen pretty big, and I have an HD monitor, and it looks fine. And I use that for streaming. Like, as someone who streams video games and records video games, I mean, I don't mind if I have to go out and do it legally and rip my cartridge and whatever, fine. But I have no other way to efficiently stream an N64 game unless I get some kind of external piece of hardware.
Yeah,
and
there's no way.
They're not the ones making it. I'd rather get an official Nintendo thing that plugs into my computer over some third-party thing, because I like Nintendo. I want to support them. I don't want to pirate things. I don't want, that's just me. So
Yeah.
I would like to see emulators become more open, and I think this might be it. Maybe we're going to see the starting with Nintendo, because mostly other consoles and stuff, they have a PC version of a lot of the big titles. So that's why we don't hear about it as much. That's why Nintendo's like the focus of this whole show, because they're the ones that hold out the most.
With that, and I mean, more so with the other consoles, you get third-party developers, and so then you have that issue of them allowing their rights to be ported over, like Ubisoft, porting over Assassin's Creed and whatnot. Where Nintendo, they have the rights to the vast majority of their games that are on their consoles.
Yeah.
So you do have that sort of like issue that that goes on. And then you've got just the whole Microsoft versus Sony issue, where Sony is going to hold out for dear life and not let Microsoft get their filthy hands on anything that they have. So we'll never see Kingdom Hearts on PC.
I thought, maybe it was just a rumor, but I thought the new Kingdom Hearts was supposed to be for Xbox as well. Or no? Is that wrong?
That's what I heard, but I don't. But I think it's supposed to be exclusively Sony. But I heard somewhere that it may be also on Xbox, but I don't think so. I think it's like the Final Fantasies. I think I don't know.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, the Final Fantasies are on Xbox. But.
And they just remade Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 in HD versions to sell
like
to the
3
new
times.
consoles. Yeah, they keep doing it. And people must keep buying them. And that sucks. I mean, it's almost better to just not throw out your old TV, and then you have something to play it on that looks nice. Because there's nothing wrong with the way those old tube TVs work once you plug in an old console. And yeah, I just never anticipated that. When I saved all my old cartridges, I kind of thought, I have these now, just forever. I can go back and play these games whenever I want, that we'll always have TVs. And I just never, when I was younger, anticipated that TVs would become so much better that they would actually screw up the old stuff.
It's too good.
Yeah.
Damn it, the TV is too good. It's too powerful. I mean, but then that's part of that model of going back and doing the remakes. That's people want to play, Mario 64, but you can't, so we're going to do a remake. Port it to the 3DS. Okay. Now we've got Mario 64 where you can play as Yoshi as well as Mario and everything, and then
if you're gonna
buy the console, buy the new game again. And so it's just part of capitalism and the consumer-driven market of getting people to constantly buy. I mean, even though what you have is perfectly fine, it's not the newest, it's not the best. So you've already thrown out your old TV, you're screwed. So now you got to buy the new one.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I wish that's what I was trying to say about remakes. If you're going to do a remake, at least give me something new. Give me any incentive to buy it other than it looks nice on my TV.
Good examples, Age of Empires HD. That's an old game.
Yeah, and they remade that.
They remade that.
They
But
hardly
did they add
touched
any
the graphics. Like,
yeah, did they add anything new? Was there any new features to it, except for the multiplayer aspect?
they did. See, that's the thing about Age of Empires. The reason I clicked buy on that game was that when they remade it, you were using Steam's network for multiplayer rather than back in the day when you had to use GameSpy, which didn't work for crap. you could not get into a multiplayer game in less than an hour because you had to set it up that long. Like everything just sucked so bad.
Wow.
And what pissed me off about it, though, even though it was worth the purchase, I loved the game, I love that they remade it, I just wish they would have made the graphics a little bit smoother and done more to it. Because they called it the HD
gives
remake.
you that. Yeah,
the
the
HD just means it looks nice on my monitor, but it still looks like I'm playing a 90s game. I would have liked to see some kind of polish to it. Because it was always a very unpolished looking game. Like the stuff when you place it just looks like a photo of a castle being placed on a photo of some land.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, but it's, you know.
Well, I think they did a good job because if I'm putting farm on a hill, like it the farms to the contour of the hill now.
Yeah, that's
You know, so I've got no problems with what they did in that aspect. I mean, it was a great remake, and I've got 100 hours on it. You know, that's I think 20 cents an hour. For what I paid for it. And I'm like, yeah, totally worth it. I mean.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, how many times can I kill Vortak just over and over again and make him like just leave him one little villager and harass that one little villager and and send him to a ball crying.
I just wish you guys all had StarCraft 2. I played the crap out of StarCraft 2 when it first came out, and it just made me want to play a modern day game. I think that's what a lot of the times what happens. I was looking at that Pokemon trading card game, and all it made me want to do was go back and play X and Y or buy the new Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire because it's new, you know, it's polished. But that's what Age of Empires made me want to do. It made me want to go back and play Warcraft 2 or 3, you know, because I had Warcraft 3 and it was awesome. And StarCraft and a game like it, but with more just updated graphics and polish.
See, like with Age of Empires HD, okay, they could have. You know, we've been playing some newer games, some new games that are actually early access that they're retro. You know, they look older, but you can tell that they've got really high definition graphics on them. You know, because they look clear and all. If they would have just done that with Age of Empires, that would have been a good graphics. You know, give it some good graphics.
Yeah.
So.
That's
I was okay with the graphics because I mean when it comes down to it, like the gameplay got better, and that's really the important aspect of it is, you know, how smooth is the gameplay? Because how many like indie games have, you know, 8-bit graphics, but we love them because, you know, because the gameplay is so good, or 16-bit graphics. You know, you just. I mean, I was perfectly, you know, calling it HD, fine, whatever, you know. That was a little shady on your part, Mike. But really, are we that surprised by shady Microsoft?
No, we're not.
No, but I mean, Omega Sapphire is it Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire? Those are great examples of excellent remakes where you just add so much to it, and even more so than the current gen. Like current gen, you can't like fly. I mean, you know, you can use your Pokemon, you can fly to predestined points, but here you can control your flying Pokemon. You're adding things to it that even the current generation stuff isn't doing, and that is fabulous in terms of how you remake a real game. You know, how you really do a remake.
I just, the only reservation I had with that was that it came out after X and Y, so technically X and Y in the storyline is the newer game, but in reality it's Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And that just kind of irked me because I never played those, so I'm still interested in buying them, but it just, in the timeline, I was like, I'll wait, you know, we'll see what it offers. And when you actually were the one who told me about the flying around thing and stuff like that, and I keep hearing about all the new little things they added to just the game itself, and that are probably now always going to be in future Pokemon releases. I'm like, maybe I have to get that game now. That sounds pretty cool. So...
Well, I mean, I skipped so many generations. Like, do you lose anything in terms of story? I mean, would that be disjunctive?
No, not with Pokemon.
No, I mean, I didn't think that would be.
I'm just I don't know.
Damn it, Vortex!
OCD.
You're just complaining. You're just complaining.
That's what I do.
I mean, but that's really what happens whenever you do a remake of something. You know, you've got a more current game and then you do the remake. It's like Tomb Raider had the Tomb Raider anniversary, and even though you had Tomb Raider Legendary, which was further along in the story, then you have a more developed, polished version based off that engine of the original game. So,
Well, my concern was the Pokemon also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you catching a whole series of Pokemon that are not there anymore? Like, did they add X and Y Pokemon into the old game, or what? I mean, what happened there? I don't know. I haven't even looked it up. Like, that was kind of my thing,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could trade them in if they don't have them already there. And there are some that are lost forever that you can't get in X and Y that I'm sure you can get in Ruby and Sapphire, and or send to your Pokemon bank so Nintendo can get their $3 more a month from you. And
the Pokemon bank too. That's how you could probably get the new Pokemon into the old game, even though it's still the new game. I keep saying the old game. What I mean by the old game is Ruby and Sapphire. Those are in the storyline the old game. So in that reality, there is no other Pokemon yet. They haven't discovered them, and all the ones X and Y add. So it's just kind of for the OCD in me. I'm just like, that's not right. That's not how it's supposed to be. But I don't know. I'll just get over it and probably get the games.
Yeah, probably.
So
because I got to beat you in that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Jimmy's got to terrorize us with her Hypno.
I was playing the other morning and just X and Y, and someone challenged me to a battle. I think he's in the stream right now watching, and he won, and that didn't surprise me. But what kind of pissed me off about the battle was the leveling. Like, it forced you to be the same level. Everything had to be level 50 in this case. And I'm like, but these are all higher than that, and I train them to be higher than that. Why? Is there an option this was like my first time battling online too, because I've just been focused on like the story of the game. Is there an option to make it like legit levels and not the bar it sets?
I'm sure there's gotta be. I haven't done too much battling online myself. So I don't know. I know it pushed like some of my lower level Pokemon up to 50. Like you didn't learn any new moves or anything, but it just made their stats level 50 equivalent stats.
It became all about how just the moves in your party. It was just that. And then I felt like I was playing the trading card game rather than a Pokemon game, because like all my training is just level with itself. Everything's the same. So it was just weird. It was a weird... I can see why it's fair, of course.
Right, so you don't have some...
But I'm all about, your hard work paying off, or your lack of hard work screwing you over.
They've got to have that, because I think in the Pokemon Championships that they had, a month ago, 2 months ago or something, they were doing high-level Pokemons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've got to have something where you can... Maybe it's the type of battle you were doing.
I'm sure it had to have been. Like, I didn't toy with the options at all. We kept everything default and just tried it. And I was just thinking, I hope there's a way to do, any level. It goes by the level of the actual, Pokemon. And then you're encouraged to go out and level them up as high as you can, and then go battle again, and that would be fun. Oh crap, I lost to my friend. That's how it used to be. I lost to my friend. I'm going to go train more and fight them again later. And it was fun. It was when I did finally get to try multiplayer with my other friends. None of us really had link cables. There's always something missing. Everyone had to have a Game Boy. Everyone had to have a link cable. And everyone had to have the damn game. There's always something missing. But once all those components came together, and I got to try it, it was just fun to, have that group of people to play with. And there was no weird rules to it. It was just go in this room, battle your friends, trade your friends, go cry in a corner when you're done, and go train some more.
Damn it, Pikachu!
I was surprised. He had
Undershot Carter.
He killed off a few like right at the beginning, and then I got like a few good hits in with Pidgeotto I had, or Pidgeot, whatever the hell it's called. And I took out a bunch of his, probably like 4. And I was really proud of myself. And I came down to just my Pidgeot, and like he had 3 more in his party. I'm like, I'm done. He's like, these are all full health. One came out, and I managed to like confuse it, and it kept hurting itself. I killed that one. Another one came out. I got it almost dead, and then he smoked me. I'm like, oh well. I'm terrible at these games. And it sucks too, because when I was younger, I followed the shows. I knew everything about all those damn Pokemon. I tell you what, if someone threw out a whatever type, I knew what type to combat it instantly. My party was stacked the right way, and now it makes me feel like I need to be really young again, keep watching the shows and educate myself on all the new Pokemon. There's a trash bag Pokemon though. I'm sorry, it's not happening. I'm not going to educate myself in these things if you're not going to try to make them right.
Are you talking shit about Trubbish?
Yes.
I'm going to go get a Trubbish. I'm going to train a Trubbish. I'm going to breed Trubbishes until I beat your Trubbish ass with Trubbish.
I mean, can you just throw like a bag of flaming dog poop Pokemon at it and just cause a fire and everyone dies?
I have Lysol Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. Just
go Windexamon.
I choose you for Breezo. Oh, stupid. So
no,
yeah,
but I mean,
I'm not educated anymore.
I'm the exact same way, because I had like several friends who bought it just so we could all get Pokemon, and they went out and bought 3DSs and 2DSs so we could play the Pokemon together. And I was like, okay, now I've got to create a chart so I can get my team set up so I can counter everybody's favorite Pokemon with this Pokemon. And I was like, okay. Then I started doing research. Okay, Mega Gringar. Okay, we're not gonna play by any like official rules, because then that would be banned. But I'll play with Mega Gringar. And so I was like doing all sorts of research shit. And I was like, yes, I have my team. I'm going to come at them. And then I just ended up having to breed Skitties for Jim's sister, and and Hypnos for Jim.
Shout out to Jim's sister, Jemmy. Mm-hmm. That's awesome, though. I mean, that's the kind of game I wanted X and Y to be, and it was. So
absolutely.
I'm all for it. I don't know if remakes, like the Pokemon trading card game would have done it anyway, because there's just so many features that would be missing that I like seeing. I like the random trades. I like to get like a double of a Pokemon and go, I already have this one. I'll just trade it randomly and see what I get. And just do that for a while. And I'm kind of scared to. Do you know if they fix those problems like that people were getting?
I never had a problem with that.
People were like hacking and Wonder Trades would get you your game bricked or something. I don't know what would happen.
I don't know. I mean, I Wonder Traded all the time. I would just sit there for like an hour because I had 60 like Hypnos or Drowsies that I needed to trade, because they were all 5 IVs instead of 6 IVs for Gem. And so I was like, okay, let's see what I can get for this guy. Just Wonder Trade. Okay, finally I got something.
Yeah.
Now I've got 49 more to trade.
That's the kind of thing I like seeing in remakes and whatever. And I'm sure that the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire remakes are going to tailor to people who also have X and Y. And I mean, especially with that Pokemon Bank and stuff. So I just want to see a new Pokemon game now. I wonder if they're going to go down the list and do this 3D thing to every game until they've done all the games.
Well, probably not, because they seem to come out with a remake of the earliest generation that doesn't have a remake every new console. So when you had Game Boy Advance, they did the remake of Fire. Fire Red. And then with the DS, they did remakes of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And now they're doing the remakes of Sapphire and Ruby. So I assume with the next gen of whatever Game Boy comes out or Nintendo comes out with for their next handheld, that will have remakes of what's after Ruby and Sapphire.
Was it Black and White?
No, Pearl. No, Pearl. I guess they would have to do. They haven't done Crystal yet, so Crystal and whatever was with Crystal.
Yeah.
So I guess they take the. It's got to be a couple generations at least between which console it was originally on.
Yeah, that would make sense, I suppose.
for them.
Poor Dread, though. Man, you got to get a 2DS, man.
Exactly. Target $100, $100
know,
and a Pokemon game already with it.
We can't. I don't think there's ever been an episode where we have failed to mention Pokemon.
No, you're thinking of Minecraft. We always mention Minecraft.
Rust.
And Rust, you jerk. You always talk about Rust.
No, not all the time.
Well, not since they screwed it over, but I mean, it was the weekly Rust update, and Gem Sisters knows it.
It started with remakes, and we ended up having a conversation about actually playing the game. So it kind of went somewhere I don't know anything about. So
yeah. But unfortunately, we are out of time, and be sure to tweet at Dreadlow Gaming and tell them to get a 2DS already.
Indeed.
And yeah, we will see you next week on the Everything Noob podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Once I finish stalling here and getting my soundboard back up, I will play this outro. See you next week.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Everything Noob podcast. Hit up everythingnoob.com for our show notes, blogs, YouTube and Twitch channels, previous episodes, and even a t-shirt store. Please game responsibly, and we'll see you next week.